What's going on, everybody? Welcome to JohnnyVTV Live here on this Saturday, March 4th. It's already March. Can't believe it. I remember this time last year, I was in Nashville watching the Shriners Classic, man. I was just hitting Broad Street. It was crazy, bro. Luke Bryant, Miranda Lamberts, whoever else has got a bar down there. It was a great time, and I get really good feels this time of the year. March is a good time. A lot of good sports going on. Join with me. Joey Cows couldn't be here today, so I had to bring in my guy who we might be doing some stuff together. ESPN Chattanooga's own Greg Larnerd. We work together with Better Sports Network, and got to bring him on. How you doing, brother?
What's up, Johnny? Good to be here, man. I'm excited to talk a little college baseball with you. Oh, gosh, football. I got football on the mind because we talk a lot about that on ESPN Chattanooga as well. But I'm repping my Plattsburgh Cardinals baseball polo. We're ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, for sure, man. And just quick, I want to say anybody who hasn't seen Greg's stuff, he does unbelievable work with ESPN Chattanooga. He had a great interview last month, or maybe in January. I can't remember.
Yeah, last month. It was February. Yep.
With Tennessee Volunteers baseball head coach Tony Vitello, one of the best coaches in college baseball, and it was awesome because the Vols are a wagon of a program, and that's the man who heads it. That's the guy who came in and reconstructed this entire team DNA. And, you know, Greg's able to get a really good piece with him. And obviously he does a lot of stuff like that. So, Greg, we have a lot to cover today. College baseball was good yesterday, but there's some bad as well. There's the good and the bad.
Of course, there's always good and bad when it comes to college baseball, and there were a couple of upsets that we noticed as well. I was kind of scrolling through the IG timeline, and all of a sudden I see the Nebraska Cornhuskers upsetting our Vanderbilt Commodores here in state, where you were just talking about in Nashville. We also had Rice, obviously, who upset Texas Tech, but I'm going to leave that to you. Johnny, tell us a little bit about the slate on Friday.
Yeah, so it was overall a really good slate. I think the good is definitely Grand Canyon. That was my second best series of the weekend. They were down 3-0, and then they rally in the bottom of the 8th inning. Levi Wells, the ace for Texas State, who was phenomenal last year, was great last night. The bullpen comes in and blows a 3-0 lead, and Grand Canyon is very reminiscent of this East Carolina team that we see. Things don't always go their way, but nothing seems to faze them. They're led by a great head coach, and they're resilient. Nothing fazed them, so they come back from down 3-0. They score 5 runs in the bottom of the 8th. They close it out to win a crucial game 1, and that's with, in my opinion, their third best starter, Zach Thornton. So definitely hats off there. It's going to be another great one today with Daniel Avisha going for Grand Canyon and Zeke Wood for the Bobcats, but we'll get more into that game later on.
Let me just drop in. Can I drop in?
Yeah.
Let me drop in about Grand Canyon, because this is a team, I'm kind of just getting into the college baseball juices here as we're opening up the season. But they did play the Tennessee Volunteers, who we cover here on ESPN Chattanooga. And you're right. Greg Wallace is a phenomenal head coach, first-year head coach. He seems like he's got this program moving in the right direction. They are a resilient bunch of guys, and they are going to be a team I wouldn't be surprised that makes some noise in a regional, possibly get to a super regional at the end of the season. They hung with Tennessee, and I know they were just playing Texas State. And, Texas State, I spent some time covering the Sun Belt as well. They're a pretty good program. But, I think Grand Canyon has a good chance to be pretty good this season.
100%, man. I think Grand Canyon. So I took a 75-1 ticket on the Antelopes a couple weeks ago because I don't really think they're going to be able to win the whole thing. But what I do believe is if they get the right draw, they unfortunately got drawn with Arkansas last year, who was terrible in the SEC tournament. And I thought that was spelling what we're going to see in the postseason, but it was the complete opposite. That was what catapulted them, gave them a kick in the ass that they needed. But I think if Grand Canyon gets a better draw this year with the talent that they have, and if they get hot at the right time, they're a team that I could see be a dark horse Cinderella team that goes to Omaha in the College World Series. I don't know if they would win it, but if you start buying at Grand Canyon at 75-1 and you get a good enough ticket, that could ultimately create equity down the road. You could start hedging or betting against them or whatever the case is, because the further they get along is the more equity that you would build off of that ticket. And honestly, Grand Canyon, stranger things have happened than seeing a team like that win. It would be not common, but it wouldn't be unbelievable to see this team win because they are a really good mid-major program.
Yeah, they are. I'm looking forward to seeing what the Antelopes do this year.
Another winner from yesterday has got to be Florida. The Gators, myself, Matt Grissom on Breaking Bet podcast yesterday, we talked them up. That was our best play of the day by far. Absolutely no question about it. And they came out and they delivered, man. They got punched in the mouth early. They handled it well. I said yesterday the only way Florida was going to lose if Yohandy Morales puts the team on his back. And, he comes out with a 3-run moonshot into galactic orbit. I haven't seen a college baseball home run hit that far, maybe ever. And then they reel it in. Then they adjust. And that was Florida's first real test. And I'm not saying Miami's going to be a team that's going to surprise a lot of people because they're a very top-heavy roster. And I don't think they're going to make it too far. They'll probably make it to the regionals, maybe the super regionals at best. But I think that was an important win for Florida to kind of solidify and verify what they have going on here. And they have another big matchup today. That's going to be our first discussion on the board in just a few moments.
Yeah, I really like what this Florida team is bringing. And just kind of looking over the box score real quick, they committed a couple of errors in this game. They got themselves back on the 8 ball, like you said. It's really good to see those hitters come out and start swinging it and back the starting pitchers, the bullpen, and go out there and pound out 14 hits and 10 runs. I mean, that's doing it against another top 25 opponent in Miami.
100%, no question about it. I'm a big Florida Gator guy, and I bought them 15-1 yesterday to win it all because I realized that's the best number we're probably going to get for the rest of the season, barring something dramatic. Knock wood. I think 15-1 is it's the best you're going to get. And it's just going to go down further on. I think their fair price right now is about 8.5, 9-1 maybe, because I think that they have as good of a chance as LSU and Tennessee does. They are a legit program. They have a wagon of a roster, pitching and hitting. I think the Gators are a team that's going to be a force to be reckoned with. But Greg, we had some bad yesterday.
Tell me about the bad.
I got to go with Texas A&M off the bat. They got mollywopped. When I checked, I didn't check the final score, but I saw 16-0. Louisville was up on them, and that's after they nearly got swept by Portland last weekend. I didn't expect Texas A&M to be a good team coming into this year. I expected them to be maybe a 34-36 win team, which is it's solid. But it's not good compared to what they're capable of. It's, they'll probably play a lot of easier opponents down the season as it goes on. And Louisville's a top 10, top 12 program. But A&M, man, they lost a lot of firepower this offseason. They lost their starter, their second best starter, Micah Dallas. They lost their closer, Jacob Pallish. They lose a guy like Dylan Rock, who's the heart and soul of that offense. They only have a couple guys left from last year, Ryan Targak, Austin Bost, and Nathan Detmer, their ace, his draft stock's really falling right now because he has not been sharp to start the year. And it was a shame because to end last season in the postseason, he was lights out. That kid stepped up when the Aggies needed him the most. But, it's still early, but the struggles that A&M has right now is very concerning, and they better get it fixed quickly. Jim Schlossnagle, he runs a great program, but they better come out and put it on Rice today because things are going to get bad pretty quick in College Station.
Yeah, they definitely are. This is a team that is a top 25 program right now, but as you're talking about, they're in serious danger of falling out of it and getting beat up the way they did against Louisville, 14-5, getting out hit 13-6, committing a couple of errors, just playing some sloppy baseball. And as you alluded to, not having the pitching that you need to have there that you would expect out of this Texas A&M program, an SEC program that's been good in the past, that it's just disappointing. And you're right, they need to do something against Rice today. But as I alluded to off the open there, that Rice is feeling good about themselves. They're an unranked opponent. They just took down a top 25 team in Texas Tech. So the Rice Owls, another team when I was growing up, like paying attention to college baseball, Rice was always one of those stalwart programs that was always good year in and year out. So they're obviously a long way from that, but they're a hot team right now, and they're feeling themselves. Obviously, coming off that win against Texas Tech.
For sure. And I could go on with more losers, but the last one I have to say is because I personally was affected by this yesterday, and I was affected by it last week. The Maryland Terps, I understand Ole Miss is a top 5 ranked team right now. I understand they're the defending national champions, but the fact of the matter is, last week we hit them plus 170 or plus 180 on the money line against at Ole Miss in Oxford. Jason Savacool, their ace, who I think is a top 15 arm in college baseball. I really do. He was okay. He let up a 2-run home run in the top of the 5th when it was 1-1 with 2 outs to go. That turned the whole game. He lets up that home run, and that was last week when he had 7 innings, 1 run, 9 Ks. But the reason why Maryland's a loser, and the reason why I don't think they're going to make it too far this year, even though they're a top 20 ranked program right now, their bullpen is terrible. Their offense is a bunch of choke artists. They cannot hit with runners on base. Their clutch hitting is brutal. They had bases loaded, I think, at the bottom of the 7th yesterday, down 3-1 with 1 out to go. They had their 2 best hitters up, Matt Shaw and Nick LaRusso. Can't get 1 run in. It's pathetic, but that's the story of their season. It wasn't just yesterday. They've been doing that. They've been leaving small armies on the base pass, and I'm done betting Maryland until further notice. I won't bet against them or bet with them because they're too unpredictable. And the same team that would be in that breath is Vanderbilt, which ironically they play each other today. But Maryland right now, they need to get it together because if they want to be in there at the end, they need to start getting guys in and stop letting up so many runs with their bullpen.
I can only imagine, and again, I'm not somebody who has dove into the world of betting college baseball the way that you have, JohnnyVTV, but I would assume that if you were going to look for a team to put some shekels on, one, you want somebody who has more of a lockdown bullpen because as a bettor and as a baseball person, you do not want to mess with a program with a volatile bullpen because anything can happen. You think, okay, we're looking good. We're betting them on the run line, whatever it may be. And all of a sudden the bullpen just blows itself up. And then you're talking about the clutch hitting, another aspect of baseball that's super important when it comes to driving in runs and beating teams the way that you should. And not being able to have a solid bullpen and clutch hitting, that is a recipe for disaster. And if that's what you're talking about with Maryland, again, I want no piece of the Terps as well.
Yeah, you're spot on completely. We've seen in the past the teams that win the College World Series, those are the teams that have deep pitching. They have good starters, but they have a really deep bullpen. That's why Arkansas made it as far as they did last year. That's why Ole Miss won it all. That's why Oklahoma was there. I mean, Oklahoma had 4 bona fide studs who all got drafted. That's what it takes. And Maryland's got one really good ace, and that's all they have.
Can't win like that. Can't win like that. Plain and simple, man.
Yeah, 100%. Cannot win like that, and that's why I think Maryland right now is a no bet list. They're black booked right now. They're
do you actually keep like a list of like teams that are black booked throughout the season?
I keep a mental list. I don't have a written list. So right now on that list is Maryland and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, though, the good thing about them, and I haven't really played anything. I bet TCU against them in the opener, the first game of the year, which hit. And then I bet a couple of their totals. But the problem is I lost a couple games betting against Vanderbilt because they're very unpredictable. But the thing is, the under is usually the way I lean with the Commodores, at least when they're playing better opponents, when they're playing the UCLAs or they're playing a Maryland, even in Nebraska yesterday, which they lost to Nebraska. It was, I think, a 10.5 total, only gets to 8. So, mentally, those are the 2 teams I have to stay away from right now.
Yeah, and it's tough for Tim Corbin's bunch there in Vandy with the Commodores. I've been up there a couple of times and seen them play a couple of times. Have you ever been to Omaha, by the way?
No, I would really love to get there this year, though.
Dude, you have to go. If you get an opportunity to go, that is one place that I didn't know needed to be on my baseball bucket list until I actually went a couple of years ago when Tennessee was there, Vandy was there. I think that was the year Mississippi State won it all. It was just an incredible atmosphere there. We broadcasted a show from there on Monday. Like, it was sick.
Yeah, when I was watching on TV last year, I was like, wow, I have to get to Omaha at some point in the near future. But all right. So Greg, we have a couple games that we need to get to. So why don't you kick us off here with this Miami of Florida game?
All right, brother, let's do it. We got a couple of games that we want to talk about for today's slate. If you're looking into putting some money down on some of these college baseball games, JohnnyVTV is going to hook you up. The first one we're going to talk about is, we talked about it from your winners a little while ago with the Florida Gators, who are hosting the Miami Hurricane. And Miami is plus 105 at this point. Florida, the favorite to win this game. The run line, the over-under. JohnnyVTV, take us through this one. What do you like here?
Yeah, so the same thing I said yesterday applies to today. You're rarely going to get the Florida Gators at this price. And honestly, after the beating they put on Miami yesterday, a 10-4 victory, I'm surprised it opened up at the same exact price it did yesterday. My theory was if Florida beat them bad enough yesterday, that this was going to open up around minus 160, minus 165. Luckily, it didn't. I don't know why the book didn't adjust on it, and I'm going to hammer it again. This is a play that, to me, it's a 2-unit play, maybe even a 3-unit play. And the reason is, today you have the best starter for Florida going. Hurston Waldrop, a transfer from Southern Miss, who right now might be pitching his way into the second overall pitcher taken off the board in this year's July draft for the MLB. This guy's got a high 90s fastball. He's got a really good bending slider. He's got a split change, and his strikeout numbers are insane. I think he's got 18 or 19 Ks through his first 11 innings. And Hurston Waldrop is going to be a guy that is going to be able to really make batters uncomfortable. A team like Miami, who tends to strike out a lot, I just don't see where the Hurricanes should be this close of a number, especially coming off yesterday. The fact of the matter is, Brandon Sproat was their opportunity, in my opinion. I think if they were going to win a game, it had to be yesterday. I still think they'll have a chance tomorrow with Alejandro Rosario going against Jack Caglione, but today, to me, is the spot. This is the 2-3 unit play like I was talking about, because the Gators are scoring runs at a ridiculous pace. They're top 3 in the nation right now with runs scored. They had 117 coming into yesterday, put that number up to 127. They have Wyatt Langford, another top 5 pick, maybe the second position player off the board. He looks like Mike Trout when I watch him. No kidding. He looks like Trout. They have Jack Caglione, who is pushing to be maybe the Golden Spikes winner this year, a top 3 pick next year. I just don't see where the Gators or Miami Hurricanes have an advantage other than Yohandy Morales maybe going nuclear like he did yesterday.
All right, so we're hammering Florida minus the 135. Thought it should have been bigger, so we'll take that number and we'll run with it. The second game we want to talk about are the South Carolina Gamecocks, minus 115. Their favorite at Clemson. Oh, actually, it's really a pick 'em at this point. They're both minus 115. The run line, the over-under. Talk to us a little bit about this one.
Yeah, so South Carolina, Clemson was a disappointment yesterday because the Tigers got swept by UCF last week. Then they come out and didn't have a big win. They put up 5 runs. But what was concerning about yesterday for South Carolina, their offense hasn't exploded in probably the last 4 games over the weekend. So their series against UPenn last weekend was meh. They should have put up probably a combined 30 runs on them, and they didn't. I think it was more along the lines of 12, which is somewhat odd. But I think the bigger thing is Will Sanders, who's their Friday guy, the Gamecocks, he hasn't been necessarily sharp. And this is a guy who's being regarded as maybe the 7th pitcher off the board this year, a top 20 pick. And, you'd like to see him tighten it up a little bit. But you've got a guy like Noah Hall today who came out 8 shutout innings, 12 strikeouts against UPenn last week. I think this is where they get even. I think actually this game might be in Greenville. I'm not 100% sure. I think maybe they may have switched it. But either way, I think South Carolina bounces back. They should not be losing this series to Clemson. I think Noah Hall comes out and he shoves today, and you're getting a minus 115. It doesn't make sense to me. I think this is clearly South Carolina.
Yeah, this one's going to be at South Carolina. They did change that, I guess. With the Battle of South Carolina there between Clemson and South Carolina with the Gamecocks. All right, our third game that we're going to talk about: Long Beach State plus 135 at the Pirates of ECU. What do you got, Johnny VTV?
Yeah, so the Long Beach State Dirtbags, that's what they call them. They have a pretty good I wish I was making it up. I don't. They have a pretty
like
good
that.
starter. They have a pretty good starter going by the name of Graham Osman, who's gotten off to a solid start. But my guy's back, and I've been looking forward to it. Carter Spivey for ECU, who is, he's their guy. He was pivotal last season on the mound for ECU to make it as far as they did and to give a team like the Texas Longhorns a run for their money. Carter Spivey got hurt last week, and he didn't start. He threw one inning against UNC. The first game of the year, he got beat up a little bit. I think it was 2 innings, 5 runs. And I'm not necessarily concerned here. I want to back Spivey. Maybe it's just my fanhood, but Spivey's a stud. And the way the Pirates can hit, and we were talking about this before, they're a very resilient team, Greg. Very resilient. Nothing seems to faze them. They can get down 5-0, and in the 7th inning, they'll rally for 6 runs. That's just the kind of team they are. And, I think 165, it seems like a big number, and Long Beach State's not a pushover. But I don't think it's big enough. I think this number should be in the 195 to minus 200 range. Carter Spivey, I'm curious to see what kind of stuff he has. But I think ultimately what I would expect from him today is something along the lines of 4 or 5 innings, 2 runs, and then the bullpen takes it away and clears it out. And East Carolina wins this game 8-4. I think that's a fair assessment here for today. I like definitely East Carolina on this one.
Okay, so you can go ECU, or you can go with the under there as well, if that's the score that you like, because the over/under is 13.5. So we'll see what happens within that game, and hopefully the bullpen is a little bit better than Maryland's, then they can make it hold up there for ECU. All right, let's go to our fourth and final game. We're going to talk about the Texas State Bobcats at Grand Canyon, a game and 2 teams that we talked a little bit earlier to kind of start the show. What do you got?
Yeah, so this is, like I said, the second best series, in my opinion, of the weekend. Grand Canyon pulled it out late. They have Daniel Avisha going today. To me, he's their best starter, and they've been using him as a Saturday role, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're not the best starter. Although most of the time, typically, the Friday guy is the number one, but it doesn't always apply. Grand Canyon, man, they are just like ECU. They're a resilient bunch. Their offense is finally starting to find ways to produce. They have Jacob Wilson, who is the second best shortstop prospect this year's draft behind Jacob Gonzalez. I make a case that Wilson's actually a better prospect than Gonzalez. I think Wilson's going to be a top 7 pick this year. They have Homer Bush Jr. They have Cade Verduzco. They have a pretty solid bullpen. And Texas State, they have Zeke Wood going today, he's pretty good in his own right. But at the same time, their offense doesn't scare me. I think Avisha could come out, throw 6 innings of 2-run ball, get 4 runs of support, and that'll be enough heading into the later innings. And we've seen last night that the Texas State bullpen is a little bit shaky. They're really missing a guy like Tristan Stivers right now from last year. Stivers was one of the best closers in the country. He nearly beat Stanford in the regionals to provide a massive upset. I think he went 7 innings, 1 run, 10 strikeouts. They don't have that this year. That's a big loss. And the fact is, what is the common theme of the show? You need a bullpen. And I think Texas State right now is a little bit in limbo. And if they're not getting nearly a complete game from their starter, it's a non-point. I think if Avisha throws the way he's been throwing, Grand Canyon's capable of spotting 4 or 5 runs. And this is a matchup where I would see the Antelopes take it. And the total, 13, to me, is a little bit too high. I'm expecting a little bit lower scoring. I think Grand Canyon is going to pull this out 5-2, something along the lines of yesterday, that this total probably gets to 8 or 9, in my opinion. I think 13 is way too high here. So I think Grand Canyon wins in the under, although I'm not playing anything on the total, just more of a lean there.
All right, so we got the Antelopes over the Bobcats there on our fourth and final game. So a lot of good stuff, Johnny. Hopefully, we can get some people getting in there, make some money today. And did just want to give a quick shout out. I know you are a big Tennessee baseball fan. And how about our boy Chase Dollander last night? Shoving 6 innings, no walks, 11 Ks, baby.
So you know what's funny about that? If you've watched him pitch, which I know you watch him, but I'm saying in general,
yes,
you've noticed this year for the first few starts, he's been a little shaky in the first inning or two. That's not like him. Last year, he wasn't like that. He would sit you down 1, 2, 3. And when I say a little shaky, that's nitpicking for him. But like you notice that he's most vulnerable right now is in the first inning or two. But this kid has been settling in, and he's been looking unbelievable. And I just don't understand how people could think that he shouldn't be the number 1 pick in this summer's draft. This kid has everything. This kid is the most polished.
You and I talked about him. He looks like a baby Jacob deGrom out there. Just the way he has the command and everything like that's going on. He's fantastic. And I don't know if you've been paying attention. I talked to my guy who covers the Vols on Thursday on the show every week on the Word with G. And man, Blake Burke has been absolutely crushing the baseball. This dude is a dude that's going to be a high draft. Speaking of draft picks, he's going to be a high draft pick after next season. And he's definitely going to break the Tennessee home run record.
So you know what bothered me? And I think I sent out a tweet about that maybe in January or possibly even February. Doesn't matter. But I wish sports books gave out player props, awards, and game-by-game props. I know it's difficult, and there's regulations for each state, but one of the reasons why was I loved Blake Burke as an SEC Player of the Year. My fair price on him probably would have been 9-1, 10-1. I think realistically, the books maybe would have given him out in the 17, 18-1 range, maybe even further, because Blake Burke plays in a conference that has a guy like Dylan Cruz, the number 1 overall prospect, who probably would have been in the 5-1 range, 4-1. They have SEC. Who do they have? Well, I don't know if Chase Dollander would have been because he's a pitcher, but I don't. They do SEC pitchers of the year, but SEC it's blanking on me. They have a lot of prospects. They have a Jack Caglione. They have a Wyatt Langford. They have these guys. So I really would have looked at Blake Burke because I thought this kid is due for a 30 home run season. With that swing in that ballpark, in that lineup, this kid had 14 home runs and 95 at-bats last year. There's no reason to think that 30 taters wasn't possible in his first year as a full-time starter. And this kid, he's pushing to be a top 10 pick next year, the way he's swinging this bat. So, Blake Burke this kid is unbelievable. And anybody that saw Tennessee play last year, it's funny, right? Because if you watch Tennessee and Florida last year, they both have rotational lefties, power slugging lefties that didn't get enough at bats, but they flashed it last year. That's obviously Jack Caggs for Florida, and it's Blake Burke for Tennessee, who are probably going to be 2 of the top picks next year and competing for SEC Player of the Year this year.
Yeah, man, the SEC is just stacked. I mean, all the way around. You talk about football, basketball, baseball. I know the Big 12 was a little bit better in basketball this year, but baseball-wise, absolutely stacked. It should be a fun game. Are there any other games for today that you're looking out for? Or is that all you wanted to go over today?
I wanted to touch on a couple more. One, Texas, Cal State Fullerton. Cal State pulled off a huge upset yesterday. A couple guys I know were talking about that. My guy Matt Grissom, shout out. That was a great call. Cal State upsetting Texas and Lucas Gordon, their Friday guy. He's a stud, that kid. And it was a tough travel. They had to travel from Texas to California, and it's not as bad as east to west necessarily, but the Texas Longhorns have been reeling. They're not up to their program standard right now, and they're a -315 favorite with Cal State Fullerton at +245. And I said yesterday when Texas was in a dogfight before they lost, I said, if Texas wins today, I'm going to take Cal State Fullerton tomorrow. And I got to be honest, I'm not so sure I wouldn't take Cal State Fullerton again today at +245. I think that's worth it. I think that's worth a half unit play. I mean, just the way the Longhorns are battling this year, it's not up to par. And, they don't have Pete Hansen this year. Pete Hansen, like Lucas Gordon was a real asset last year because he was a Saturday guy. So their Saturday guy, they don't have Tanner Witt throwing. Tanner Witt, I think, is still on the shelf, and they don't have a reliable number 2. And their bullpen is very shaky. Their offense lost a lot of firepower at Murphy Staley, Ivan Melendez, and company. And I think this is another team that I would look for an upset. Definitely love the plus 3.5 at minus 120, but the money line at 245 is a fair look as well.
Awesome. Love that, man. And just looking at some of the games that are going on right now, we talked about Vanderbilt and Maryland, and Vandy's up in the bottom of the fourth, first inning, 4-1.
4-1 in the first?
First inning, bottom of the first. Yep, they're up 4-1.
They put up 4 runs in the first inning.
Put up 4 runs in the first inning.
See? So Nick Dean, I think, would have been going for Maryland today. He's their shout. He's okay. He's okay. He's not great. He's a guy in a decent matchup I would look to back. But the problem with Nick Dean is you're not usually going to get that 6 or 7 innings you need from him. And if you do, he's given up 3, maybe 4 runs. And I just don't think Maryland's they're not a bettable team right now. And
like we talked about, the bullpen isn't there. So if you're not getting length out of your starter, that's going to be a big problem.
100%. 100%. That's the one thing that can offset. That's why Maryland beat Ole Miss in the opener last Friday, because they got 7 strong from Savacool, and they got to the questionable starting pitching of Ole Miss. That helps, but otherwise, it's a tough road to climb here. And I did have one more game if you had time.
Yeah, tell us, baby.
All right, so if I was betting it, I like Dallas Baptist today at the underdog price of plus 110 against Southern Miss. Southern Miss really disappointed me last week. Tanner Hall got lit up. Illinois ran through them. They got ransacked by the Illini, or if that's how you say their team name.
Yep.
So I think today it should be Matt Adams for the Eagles. And Dallas Baptist, again, they were a tournament team last year like Southern Miss. They're another really good mid-major program, and they lost 5-4 yesterday, or 4-3. They lost by 1 run. They were right there, and I think it was very on par. So I just don't know if I see Southern Miss sweeping them, because the Eagles' offense really is questionable. If they don't get a strong effort from their starters, they're in trouble, dude. They're not a team that is built to come back. They're a team that you have to pitch really well and take advantage of situational hitting, because Dallas Baptist is a team that will sneak up on you.
No, they're perennially a good baseball team. They're a team that you have to look out for year in and year out. And you think about them, and you always sort of see them towards the end of the year in a regional and a super regional. They're making some noise, and they're a really good program.
Yeah, exactly. And last one actually is TCU Louisville. I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about this game. TCU pulled out a sneaker yesterday in Houston at Minute Maid Park, home of the Astros, against Michigan. And Michigan, their pitcher pitched really well. He did really well. And TCU had a 1-0 lead. I think it might have been in the 6th or the 7th inning when the Wolverines had the bases loaded, nobody out. And TCU got out of it. That doesn't happen for them. Their pitching has also been very questionable. And, I think if that doesn't happen, there's a lot that changes. But today they're minus 120 favorites over Louisville. Louisville put up almost 20 runs yesterday. I don't know, man. I think, honestly, I'd probably look at TCU again, though, because I just think their offense is better than Louisville's. Even though TCU's been questionable. This is a coin flip kind of game, though. So anything that I would do, and I'm not giving out anything official here, it'd be a half unit maybe on TCU, because I just think the way Louisville is a little overrated. They lost key members last year, Dalton Rushing, Cam Masterson in their lineup. So I don't think they're as potent as they were last year.
Gotcha. Well, something to look at as well with the Horned Frogs there and the Cardinals. It should be fun. And Johnny, it's been great getting an opportunity to chop it up with you and talk about some college baseball here on a Saturday. My Plattsburgh Cardinals, shout out to the old D3 baseball squad. They're 1-1. Wanted to give them a quick little shout out. But man, it's been fun joining you here, and I hope we get a chance to do some more college baseball down the road.
Absolutely, for sure. And before we let you go, don't forget, sign up for Bet Karma to get unlimited access of pristine betting and fantasy analysis picks. Use betkarma.com/JohnnyVTV today. And of course, the Gambling Guinea's best betting trend is the Florida Gators run line or money line at -135. Greg, thank you so much. Tell everybody where they can find you.
For sure. I'm on the Word with G on ESPN Chattanooga 95.3. You can find it Monday through Friday, noon to 2 Eastern Standard Time, ESPNChattanooga.com. You can also get the ESPN Chattanooga app or follow me all over social media. It's nice and easy. What my name says there, it's at Greg Larnerd. So follow me on there and we'll have some fun. And you want to hear about some Tennessee baseball? We sure as you know what are going to talk about Tennessee baseball.
And that's great, man. You know, I loved having you on. Hopefully we're going to be doing a lot more stuff. Wink, wink. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter as well at _JohnnyVTV. We got a great slate today. Check it out on Twitter. All the picks, everything you need to know. Let's win some money, and we'll see you next week.